Psychotechnologies live.
Woo!
Oh my god, trying to sync up is not helpful. Psychotechnologies live. Rah.
Woo!
Maybe we gotta get like
we'll get there eventually, and that's when we'll know that we've arrived.
okay.
This is how we'll know that we're doing the channel. We're on the path.
I see. Okay. I guess we gotta like maybe we should practice. We gotta like go offline and like 3, 2, 1, go.
Woo!
Woo! Whoops.
But
see, this is what goes wrong.
I like that we're doing it like live, so like people can like, you know, the hardcore fans could like see us progressing, and they get to see the relationship and like how the vibes work, and you know, and they get to see like, because like I think a lot of times I look at people and they seem perfect, and like they were just born knowing how to do this. And so for us, like we get to show the journey of like syncing up and bonding and building our friendship and getting on the same vibes.
Nice. Oh, I'm all for getting
the whole journey, but like they get it like snapshots.
I am all for that. I'm all for syncing up vibes. I'm also aware that we have a topic for today.
Yes.
So our topic for today is containers and containering. I don't know how much history do you know about containers, Daniel?
I think baskets were like the first containers. So it's actually pretty crazy because let
me ask that again. How much do you know about therapeutic containers?
Oh, damn, I was gonna do a whole like archaeological history lesson on the history of baskets.
Things of weird holding stuff. Originally people went like this with their hands a lot, but that didn't work very well because they needed their hands to do other things.
Yeah, no, because imagine you're collecting berries and every time you fill up your hands, you have to come back. Like you can't be a gatherer, or you're gathering and you're just eating it there. But to be able to take it back to the village, it's actually one of those like inventions that is like it changes the lifestyle of the people that have it. And it's extremely hard to trace it back because the baskets are all woven, so that stuff doesn't survive through the years.
Well, or made out of leaves or something.
Yeah, I can use a stone basket.
Yeah, that's not very helpful. They're very heavy.
Yeah, plus fishing.
Yeah.
So baskets are actually pretty like integral, or containers are pretty integral to our like, yeah, for us, like for that Homo sapiens became, you know, humans instead of, I don't know, like dolphins or something, right?
Yep. Totally a thing. What about so fast forward several thousands of millions of years to therapeutic containers.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you know the history?
I know nothing about it.
Okay.
It's an intuitive thing that someone like.
So we've fast forwarded too far, and now we need to fast forward back to the 1950s or so.
Okay.
There was a guy named Wilfred Bion, and he proposed the container principle. And it's very possible that most people who work with containers don't even know this, because it's just the history. He proposed the mother-child relationship holds the container. So you have the mother and you have the child. The baby starts crying, and the mother goes to the baby, tunes into the emotions of the baby. It's like, oh, my baby's sad about something. Tunes into the emotions, and then like soothes herself, so calms herself down. And that emotional regulation process of like feeling the baby's emotion and then like coming back out is a signal to the baby on a very subtle level that it is okay to stop crying. So maybe the baby heard a loud noise, and so the mom comes to the baby and like checks the area, and the area is fine, and the mother tunes into the baby's emotion and then calms herself down. So in reassurance to the baby that it's okay to not be crying. And babies obviously they have a couple of brain cells, but not all that many. So they don't really know why they're crying or what's going on. Maybe they're hungry, maybe they're thirsty, maybe there's a loud noise. They don't really know. But potentially if the parent goes through this process, the parent is holding the child in a container that teaches the child it's okay to have your emotions and it's okay to soothe them.
Yeah,
So
I know that very well. I like, in this case, it's me, the dad. But that's kind of just mostly how I calm him down. Is I just
right.
I go to him, I resonate with what's going on, and then then I make decisions. So it's not, sometimes I'm like, no, it's okay, and so sometimes I'm like, it's okay, I'm just here, and sometimes it's like, oh, actually, no, it's not okay. Like, you need food or diaper change or whatever.
Right. So Bion took this observation that he proposed and he applied the same sort of metaphor to the therapeutic relationship, that sometimes people become adults and they're not themselves able to hold their container. Oh yeah, that's the other bit, that the baby builds its, or the growing child builds its own container based off the parent's container. So the parents model it, the baby copies it. So then when we get to therapy, the therapist also is holding a big container for the client to have emotions in or have experiences in and process their emotional experience. And the therapist is constantly sending the signal, it's okay to have these emotions, you're okay. And sort of helps the person build their own container of support and safety for themselves, in which that they can process their either past or present experience. So that's the foundation of container experience, container theory. And then that gets applied also bigger to collective containers. You might have heard of the idea of a container like a group process container. Have you heard of that?
Not, I've like collective presencing and circling.
Right. Right. So the proposal is that these practices are done in a container, in like, you could even think of it like a big melting pot, like a big stew, and we throw all the ingredients in and we stir them around and we process the things, or we make the things we need to make within that container. And if that container is not held strong, if someone gets angry and storms out, then the container sort of breaks. Like, we can't keep working on the thing if it leaves, especially if it's like a interpersonal relationship, like I'm arguing with my family or something and I want to sort it out. If we're at the negotiating table, process can happen. If someone leaves, then process can't happen. We can't hold the container strong enough to work through what we need to work through. In that sense, it's very important to keep a container.
Yeah.
There are,
I think there are other possibilities that exist outside, but yeah, like I get
it's also not that always we have to be at the table. We can also quit the process for a while, come back in 5 years or something, who knows. But in terms of containering, the container needs to be able to hold what's going on in them, which means that if I need to yell at one of the other parties in the room, they or the facilitator needs to somehow support me doing the yelling that I need to do, or helping me get out the thing I need to get out without yelling, if the yelling is going to completely trigger it and scare off the other person. So we somehow need a container that can support the thing that is happening in it. And containering is a fairly important therapeutic concept of like providing safety. A container should provide safety. A container should have a particular tone or a particular, got to use Daniel's word here. Containers should have a vibe to it, right? And the container should hold the vibe for whatever needs to happen in it. And there are different flavors of
or the other way around is like the container is something like more concrete and objective, and then that itself can start to build a vibe. And the vibe comes to it.
Right. So that's the foundation of containering and the therapeutic idea of containering. But yeah, it's kind of gets endlessly more fascinating beyond the history, because when I'm in a container, there's this experience of, it feels like I'm in a container. Like, it feels like there's invisible walls holding in something, holding in the conversation. Like, particularly if maybe people are being vulnerable or having difficult emotions, like it can feel like there's pressure in the room because there's a lot of emotions moving around. And then the room feels like it contains those emotions for the thing to happen. Then we walk out of the room and then it all kind of melts away.
Yeah.
Which is super fascinating. Thing I want to study anyway.
Yeah. So like to give some more also mundane examples of like if you walk into CD bar, you
Right.
know, that's a certain container. If you go to church service, church,
Right. Different containers.
oh, don't do this in church, don't do that. Like you have to be a certain way. Like they're creating a container and they're enforcing it in a certain way.
Mm-hmm. Totally. House party has a different container to a dinner party. Like just feels different. Different things are possible at those scales.
Yeah. And yeah, and if you like you can break containers, and also in a very strong sense they're just illusions, like they're not real. But also in another sense they're very real.
It's also like what's been useful for me, particularly around a lack of safety in containering, is to test the container. Like, can it handle 10%? Like, can it handle 20%, 30%, 40%?
What are the boundaries and how can
Well, if the container can handle 10%, then maybe I'm willing to be a little bit more vulnerable. But if it can't, then I'm definitely not opening up here. It's just not safe. Or, you know, my stuff doesn't feel safe to come out here.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna throw up something real quick, which is I realize we are at the screen wrong.
I think yeah, there's a lot of good jokes with container breaking. So I think that's a thing. Like if you're at like a seance and you're all super intense and then somebody farts, like that's really funny.
Right.
Because it's very like container breaking.
Yeah, interesting. Revealing things that this reminds me of that anthropologist talking about how the worshipping and then breaking anyway, sometimes containers can get stronger when there's permission to break them. Like everyone recognizes that the fart was not supposed to be here, and yet it's still good.
Yeah, and it can reinforce. It reinforces the container itself. Like if everyone's like that was wrong, then everyone is defending the container. That shows that it's actually like it's kind of like it's like a catalyst for like crystallizing that this container exists.
Right. So I want to throw in just a little bit of integral quadrants. I don't know how well you know the quadrants.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that look familiar?
It's yeah. This is actually really cool stuff. I did spend a bunch of time sorting through it. You want to make it like bigger? Like click on it.
I don't think I can. I can
try. Right click, open image, new tab. I figured that out. Look at us.
Finding it. Look at us. There you go.
And then Control plus. Yeah.
Yeah. Look at that. Yeah. Right. So this is a diagram that comes straight out of integral theory. On the top we have individual, on the bottom we have collective, on the left we have interior, and on the right we have exterior.
Yeah.
So that means in the upper left we have individual interior. So
this is perspective. The way I see it is this is perspective.
Right.
Like this is a chart of perspective.
Right. So upper left, individual interior. What's it like being Daniel? From Daniel's perspective, right? Daniel, what's it like being you? And then he can answer.
Pretty fun most of the time, yeah.
Pretty fun most of the time. Great. So your thoughts, your emotions, your memories, Daniel's thoughts, Daniel's emotions, Daniel's memories from inside Daniel, right? So he should be saying, I think, I feel, I remember, those sorts of things, right? I'm over here.
Mario.
Yeah, I'm over here talking about Daniel. I'm sort of like observing from the exterior. And so I can be like, Daniel looks like he's kind of happy.
Yeah.
From the outside.
Yeah, or Daniel weighs a certain amount, or Daniel
right. Daniel has this heartbeat.
Yeah, you're objectifying me.
Right. Wow, what an object.
Huh?
Wow, what an object.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I like that. I like how you said that about me. Because I am also an object, right? And so I'm external to you. I'm not part of you. You know, it's a thing over there, and it can have characteristics.
Right. So that's the upper right is the exterior, individual exterior, everything about Daniel from the outside that we can observe. The part where it gets interesting is the bottom half of this diagram, which is the we and the its. So the its is probably, it's still observing from the outside, but you can observe sort of like a network or a bunch of people playing a game. You can sort of see them from the outside, see how the game works, see how the government works, sort of from the outside. We can watch.
Yeah. Like how does like sports, they do this all the time. Like how does it function as a team?
Right. Or the economy. How does the economy influence
Yeah.
other bits of the economy? Sort of that's the exterior. And the intersubjective, the we interior collective is this really tricky thing. Because and that's the like, I'm gonna stop sharing so we can keep talking. The intersubjective is where the container comes in. That I can sit in a group process with a bunch of people and we can all together feel like we're talking about heavy things. Or, you might have done circling stuff where I can make a statement like, right, it seems like we're all pretty excited to be here. And hopefully if it's true, I'll get a bunch of people like being like, yeah, we are. Like, and I can speak to something that is not just mine, but belongs to multiple people in the room and describes the collective experience. And this becomes quite interesting because we can have interior experiences like the subjective I emotions on a collective level. Like we can all at the same time notice that we are all feeling excited to be here. And that's kind of cool that we're in sync a little bit. Like there's a phenomena that is beyond just the individual that I can tune into and notice. And I would say like the choir at church, the container principle, the therapeutic container. These are all really interesting processes to start to notice as collective stuff.
Right. So like when you have like, so the example, like the hockey team as well is you can have the hockey, like if you're on the team and you have other players on your team, there's an like you're all the same kind of, and you're in this thing, right? So you're trying to win the game and you're all same side, you're all on the same team. And it's not necessarily about who is like, it's not necessarily about you do this thing or that thing. It's about, there's this sense of like interconnectedness. And so you're trying to operate the team from within the team, or a business or a YouTube channel or anything where you're doing stuff with other people.
Right.
It becomes this like fluid, intersectional, whatever, like kind of thing. And sometimes that means scapegoat someone. You're right. Like the guy farts in middle of the seance and you're like, dude, not cool. Like everyone jumps on there, right?
Right.
And that's like to protect the team. Or it's to protect the container or the group, that I think that's going on. And so and then I think when the person gets pushed out, then they feel like an I and everybody's being mean to me, and they've lost that interconnectivity space, that collectiveness.
So, okay, open question here. What is our container here? Me and you talking about Psychotech. What's our container feel like to you? Because we're in a container right now.
Yeah. It's like the thing that I feel like I feel like we're exploring it and figuring it out as we do it. So it's very like changing.
Well, it can also be changing size and shape over time. Like, for example, we haven't really touched on anger all that much. We did one episode that had a little bit of anger stuff in it, but our container seems to talk about anger and not do anger. So, but last episode we talked about a couple of vulnerable things, because I was talking about the retreat, and that was like, oh, our container changed shape to be able to be present to those things. And then right now it's not so vulnerable. We're just chatting.
Yeah. But it still feels like Psychotechnologies live container. And it's really hard to like put a pin on it, but I think it's I think it's evolving on multiple dimensions all at the same time as we go through time. And so I don't know. I don't know what it feels like. I have been feeling into it, and I don't have a good answer.
So maybe one of the dimensions that I am occasionally paying attention to is like, how deep are we going? Are we all ideas and thoughts, or are we like dropping into emotional and personal experience? And I have the theory in my head that depth is actually really interesting to listen to. And so I try and take us to a little bit more depth from time to time, because it's interesting to listen to.
I feel like I do a lot of like moving to the superficial so that people can understand what's going on.
Interesting. Well, there you go. We got a dynamic going already.
Yeah. I try to do both, but interesting. Like it might be.
I mean, it's also that people don't want to constantly be dealing with heavy experiences. They got enough of that in their own lives.
Yeah.
Depends where people are at.
Yeah. Yeah. And to me, it's like there's like this, you want the intersection, like you want it to be deep and nuanced in a way that's easy to understand and easy to listen to and pleasant to listen to. And so like to me, that's like I'm trying to like hit that intersection.
Yep. I mean, this is us. We could build a different container. Is there anything you want more of in our psychotech container?
Yeah, but it's not coming to me right now.
Well, so this is a relationship principle that at first, when you're in a relationship, mother-child, you're the child, you're like, I don't know what's going on. And then eventually you grow up and you get mature enough and you notice there's a relationship there. You notice you can make the relationship better or worse by like saying nice things or saying mean things.
Yeah.
So suddenly you have a choice. You can start modulating the experience of the relationship by adding or subtracting elements. So congratulations, we're now adults in the psychotech container. We get to choose if we want more or less of something in the container. And as soon as you're aware of the container, you can start like, I have a friend who describes like sometimes being aware of something is like you have access to the axe. You can like, the axe is on the floor. It's always been on the floor. And sometimes people could say different things and pick up the axe and say them. But when you know that there's always an axe on the floor, suddenly it's like, it's heavy. You got a lot of responsibility. It's like, do I pick up the axe now or do I not pick up the axe? Like, do I take the power and be like, we're going to talk about this now? Or do I like not do that?
Oh,
it's like quite a powerful move.
I always see that as a negotiation. I always see that as a negotiation.
Right. But some people just didn't know it was a negotiation table. And so you can rock up and be like, let's do it like this. And they'll be like, I guess we're doing it like this now.
Yeah. Yeah. I do. There was a time where I didn't really realize I didn't have the power to negotiate, I would say. And like now that I'm able to negotiate, it's conversations are much more interesting and engaging. And like doing things with people, like I'm able to be more present. Because like, yeah, like I feel like I'm not necessarily in charge, but like I'm one of the people in charge. I got this channel, like I'm one of the people in charge. I'm one of the other people in charge. That's
right.
So far.
So I have a general theory that culture starts at the top and works its way down. And so this applies to like, if your CEO is a mean guy to his underlings, they'll be mean to their underlings, and then the bottom rung of the pyramid will be mean to the customers.
Yeah.
So your guy at the top really needs to send the best culture down.
Yeah. Like when you show up somewhere, you don't know how it works, right? So you have to So most people like they look around and see what's going on, and then they kind of just copy everyone around them. And so you want to have good things to copy, I think, as a leader.
Right. And you want to have your own good culture that you want to bring, like appreciating the people around you, enjoying their existence, like working through your differences, but not in a like bogging down the system sort of way.
Yeah.
The more you can make everyone get along in your giant hierarchy, like you might be one guy near the top in the management, but underneath you are thousands and thousands of people. Like if you can extend positive working relationships between all of them, your business is just going to do really well. And then some guy at the bottom is going to like love his job and enjoy talking to the customers.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And that's gonna
It's going to bring your customers back. It's going to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder how much like executives' jobs are there to just like hang out and model behavior.
I could believe it.
Yeah,
I clearly haven't been an executive myself for long enough to be able to be like, oh yeah, it's 90% of the job, but it does seem like it.
Yeah.
Like
model
thinking about there's this idea of the deep state, which is the administrative body of the government that
I totally believe in deep state. Yeah.
Well, that stays there even if the leadership changes, right? Mm-hmm. The leadership can hire and fire a few people, but in general, the administrative body of the government stays. Well, it's the same in a corporation, that the administrative body will generally, they're like the living soul of the company, that is the way we do things around here, will kind of stay, even if you change one person out. Like the rest will kind of stay the same. And you can change a few people out and it may shift a little bit, but for the most part, it stays. And so
yeah, like even if the CEO shifts, like there's still right. The company is still a certain way.
Right. So your job as the management is to cultivate a good company culture so that the company stays in business and turns profit by keeping its customers.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could totally believe that the job of the people, most of the job of the people at the top is to positively receive, like, the head of marketing. He or she has a whole marketing department underneath them doing the marketing job. They just need to make sure that the reports come to them and they're like, yes, this is right, and reward everyone. And maybe they need to train people on how to get along with each other. Maybe they need to say, that way, we're going over in that direction over there. Start making marketing materials that head us in that direction. But their job is totally to keep the relationships going strong.
Yeah. Like, are they being dicks to the people below them? Are they like, right, do this or you're fired, do this or you're bad? Or are they like being human and considerate?
There's also the like, we're running behind on this, it's all your fault. Like, again and again and again.
Pushing blame away, or are they accepting blame?
Right.
Is it a safe environment to accept, to admit,
to own up to your mistakes? This is the classic conversation around who's the leader of China? His name Xi Jinping or Putin. It wasn't Xi Jinping, it was Mao. Yeah, that's the one. Didn't like bad news from the people below him, and there was a bit of a famine going on, and the news that came to him was that we have such a bountiful harvest,
right,
and that so much harvest that our stores will not be able to hold all the food because there's too much food. And Mao sent out the instruction to leave every third field empty, because the news that came to him was that the fields were overflow, the bountiful harvest that they were having, when actually they were sort of running low. And because that happened, there was a huge famine and a lot of people starved to death. But part of the cause of that was he didn't want to receive bad news. Maybe he was doing bad things like firing people or killing people if they brought bad news. And so he didn't get the bad news. And so he couldn't respond to it as a good leader. He just responded to the news that he got. And that had terrible side effects. So again, company culture. Does your company have the culture of people can bring bad news, or does it not?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's huge too. And like, are you going to shoot the messenger?
Right.
Shooting messengers is terrible for a company.
Right.
Messages never get anywhere.
And then what? And then there's like, you didn't tell me, and it's like you didn't ask, and like I didn't want to tell you because I was scared of what you to do if I did tell you. Like, yeah, absolutely. It's very, very bad for culture.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
But containers. So the company culture is a container. They're like interpersonal, the Psychotechnologies live container. We're in a container. Like, can we bring bad news? This is a like, not that I want to like constantly be in bad news land either, but if there is bad news, I'd want to know about it.
Yeah. I do feel very much like I can say what's happening. I mean, some of it I can't because we're on the internet, but not necessarily on stream, but that's because we're in a container within a larger container of
society,
YouTube, and then the container of the internet, container of society. And then all those containers, like, they have certain ways of being that you can only do certain, like, you have to be very careful, or certain consequences, things like that. And so that all affects.
Right.
Also, we're like part of those containers as well. And so there's something of pushing the containers in the directions that we want to go, because we can also affect those containers.
Yes. I don't know. What would you want if you could change larger containers? How would you like them to be? Not that I know how to do that right now, but which containers would you change?
Chill out more. Yeah. Like, I don't like this like, everyone's like tension and like not letting people do stuff. I find like smacking down
creativity or alternative ways of being, or
I think that's for me is like, I'm feeling that a lot in my life, like people trying to control my behavior in ways that make it comfortable for them. And they
damn society.
Not damn society, because you can't do that. Like, damning society is not a good way to live life.
That's true.
But
that's classic anarchy. Well, yeah. As a flip side, is there anyone, do you relate to anyone in the way that you wish they would just stop doing the thing? Like, you want to tamp them down in their behavior as well?
Yeah. But
okay. Oh, interesting.
Okay. Doesn't mean I do.
Good. Great. Yeah.
And
like,
to be fair, a lot of that I did used to, and then they called me out on it, and I was like, oh, okay. Guess I should stop doing this.
So I guess what I have turned to in this moment of interesting experience is the fractal nature. Like, you feel like others in your life are tamping you down. And then I was like, well, are you tamping people down yourself? Like, okay, you're part of the system that has all the tapping. But more importantly, like, with an open, this is more like the open question of like, how do we transform entirely this fractally, everyone's tapping everyone down all the time thingy that we got going on in society right now? Like, what's
you're shifting this into like a broader perspective.
Well, it's the universal pattern that I want to permanently solve in my little universe. Even though there's a like personal experience of that pattern here, I want to also solve it on the like grander scale. And I suspect that the solution that solves the personal problem also works on the global one.
Yeah, there's like this reciprocating relationship or something, or resonant relationship. Strange interactions where they're like, there's not technically a connect, like they're connected still.
The particles you're talking about, the physics thing, the strange. I'm
using this as a metaphor. I'm not saying this is
no.
But yeah.
Well, it may be a perspective taking thing. Like, the relationship that you have with your own personal subjective container is currently picking up this, noticing that there's a lot of tamping down. And then if you
Yeah.
switch and just check if you're tamping down, you're doing it as well. And so you just need to move out of the like sub dimension where there's a lot of tamping down into a dimension where that thing is solved. Right. And then you won't, because it's like it's very much an LSD type thing. Seeing the pattern repeat itself will hopefully make you tired of the pattern and ready to like shift in a non-tamping down relationship with it. Or like, you know, maybe sometimes, and this is a play with perspectives here. Like, what is it like to be tamped down? To be on the receiving end of this, your experience tamping you down, or like your external world tamping you down.
Yeah, it's like subtle ways of keeping me from going where I want to go. So it's not like someone saying you can't leave the house. It's like the keys are gone,
Or like,
and
you shouldn't be interested in that thing, or
yeah, or like, and then there's no gas in the tank, and then there's the roads are closed. You know, the roads are not
little ways
closed,
in which
but
there's like
construction. You have to go around, and then the GPS is not working. Like, like it's like
subtle, very subtle.
Yeah.
Like if the universe was sending you a message, it really should get better at like big signposts rather than like, you know, subtle.
No. When the universe does it, I listen, because yeah, I'm not taking. I think the universe has my best interest in mind, and I'm not, you know, like I can take a message, but like when other people do it, it just feels like they're being dicks.
Right. So people versus the, you know, people aren't the universe.
Yeah, especially when they won't be straightforward with it, and like I can't get to the thing, but like I know it's there, and like I can't put my finger on it, and I can't see it. But I'm like, you're doing things that I can't see in other dimensions that are like repressing me.
Right.
And
okay.
then, but like recently I'm getting better at that, and then they're like admitting to it. Like I had 2 people actually admit to it.
Some kind of tamping down thing.
Yeah, like controlling my behavior.
Right. Without being too specific, some kind of like admission of like something like that. Yep.
Yeah. Well, like you're too relaxed and free and flexible, and that doesn't work. You need to be rigid.
Right. That's what they said to you. Something like that. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, like they would say it differently, but those words were used. Yeah.
So okay. And I'm curious to, if we flip the script, like, so you said there are ways in which you tamp down other people, or you notice that you have it too.
I don't really do it anymore because it got pointed out to me.
Okay, so when you were doing it, how did it feel to be the one tamping down, like doing that thing?
Yeah, so I what I would do is like I'm trying to do something, and then like, or take the conversation, or like make a certain point, and then other people would just take the conversation in random directions. I'm like, no, like I have a thing I'm trying to do, right? And then people were like, no, we don't want that. We don't like it. And so, okay, like a bunch of people told me that, right? Not just one. So I'm like, okay, like the people have spoken. That's how it is. I do spend more time with people that want to do the similar things to what I want to do. So like
that just makes sense.
Yeah. So like not like, yeah. So a lot of that is shifted. So like I'm with you, and you can like understand multiple steps. And like we have like a dynamic where we can follow things along. Not saying it's perfect every time, but I generally get my needs met.
How dare you tell me I'm not perfect? I'll have you know that I'm perfect, and I graduated perfect in my perfect. Do you know how many perfect scores I have?
So I was
talking to, Daniel.
The interconnectedness of us and our container, but I see you took that personally.
Well, I figured I would just tamp you down, since you have such good skills being able to like feel tamped down and be okay with it. I figured now's a good time for me to just like squash him a bit.
Yeah. But I don't feel squashed, to be honest. No offense.
Okay. Clearly, I'm not very good at this, but yeah.
No, because I know you've done what you've done is you've taken on a tangent. Now we're just talking about this, and my point is completely like lost. but I know, and I forgot where what I was saying or where it was going, but it doesn't matter because I know that we're going to come back to it. With other people, like I know we're not going to come back to it because I know that they're going to be talking about inane things and they're going to fill up the space with their anxiety and tension, and then I just have to sit and listen to that. And like not even in like a sharing kind of way, in like a proxy war kind of way. I don't know. I don't even know what we're talking about.
Sorry, I'm tracking. So to give us a loop-de-loop on what we're going through, this construct of like tamping down.
Yeah.
So like when I tamp down on someone by saying what you're talking about is not interesting, or when they tamp down on me by saying like, I don't want that, or stop doing that. There's like some sort of a little bit of squish that I feel when I'm rejected or denied or declined. And so I went for the like, what's it like to be receiving the squish? And then what's it like to be giving the squish? And then Daniel described that you described that you don't really do it anymore because you described the people who have spoken. Right. So the people told you like, hey, stop squishing me. And you went, oh, okay. And a couple of people let you know. And so you went, oh, okay, I should stop doing that. And you stopped yourself. So does that give you a clue? If we go back to the being squished perspective that you're also in, does that give you a clue as to like what to do? Aha.
Actually, yeah, that's a good connection.
Yeah, that's what.
What was very impactful was like a one-on-one and there's like a come to Jesus feeling.
You're gonna have to give me more words on what that.
Okay, so there's this like feeling or like scene or container that I get that it's like a come to Jesus moment where like you sit down and you're like, look, I know we joke around and we have all these things and stuff, but like right now I'm serious. And then it's not shame, but shame is like very close to there. And it's like really intense and like everything gets, it's like flush. I don't know, maybe it is shame, but it's like it's like the right amount of shame where you're not like avoiding it and like it becomes a formative moment where someone takes you aside and they tell you what's happening.
Okay. And so when you received this, you found it to be very powerful and moved you to want to be different. Is that what you're saying?
But those are hard to create because like it's kind of has to be organic, or else it's just me.
Otherwise it's a manipulation, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So we're not quite completely at the answer, but there's some sort of like revealing to people that you want to rebalance the relationship so that there's less tamping down or something.
Yeah. Or at least like the reciprocal, right? Like, cause like I don't mind a certain amount of like back and forth tamping down. Like actually like just wait, I'm like doing this point and then but as long as like both parties have to have that or one party has to be like higher status or something. Like a teacher can say, guys, don't talk while I'm lecturing. But unless it's like, to me, unless it's like unless that power differential is explicit or accepted by both parties, like you can't do like you can't do that. Like there are some people that I don't want to talk when they're around because I just want to listen to everything they have to say. But the people that are repressing me are not those people.
Right.
Or like ostensibly my peers.
That's complicated. That's like I repress myself when I want to listen to a wise teacher and I try not to interrupt them because I think they have interesting things to say.
Yeah, but I'm not. I don't.
That's okay because I can also unrepress myself anytime I like. If they say some dumb shit, I'll be like, hey, wait a second.
It doesn't feel repressed. Like when I'm watching a movie, like I don't feel repressed. Like I can't. say
Right.
anything.
There's like full consent to like be quiet and watch the movie because I want to be quiet
Yeah,
while I watch the
I
movie.
want to know what's going on.
Yep.
But yeah, that's the problem. Sometimes people do things and I'm like, I don't want to, I don't care what's going on. Like the story is dumb.
Mhm.
And like there's a lot of leeway I find for strangers or for like newer people because they're trying to orient towards me. I get it.
Hmm.
Yeah, like we're trying to orient towards each other and like that's an incomplete process. And also stranger stuff is like interesting because everything is new. So they're saying a story, like the story might be dumb, but the context might be interesting.
Hmm.
Right? Like if someone's telling me a dumb story about their time in Afghanistan during the war, and it's like a really dumb story, but like Afghanistan during the war is really interesting, right? Or just Afghanistan in general, like not even during the war, just like that's really interesting. Like I went to the market and I got some water, and this guy there yelled at me, so I told him to fuck off and went home, right? Like that's a boring story, but if you're telling me like, oh, what was the market like? Oh, what was it like? How did you do that? Like, how did that work? Right? Like I'm learning all this culture that's going on, and that's interesting. But people that I know already, I'm like, I already know all the context that you're in, and like, I don't care. And I've already heard this story like 5 times. Oh my god, do people do that to you?
Repeat stories.
Story over and over again.
Oh man. Oh, I have to tell you this. I once talking about different types of therapy. There's a I knew someone who was a coach, and he had a way of working with people who would have like endlessly shitty, like a negative worldview story of their life, like I'm the victim sort of story, and he would get them to tell the story, like tell me the story, like what happened, like your mother hit you when you were 5, like okay, that's fine. Tell me again. I'm not sure I got all the details. Just start from the beginning and tell me again. And he get them to and just like get the full story. And obviously the story, the details change a bit the second time through, like immediately after, right? Like don't take a break, like tell me again, right? And then they'd repeat it, and then he'll go, wait, can you just start again and just tell me again? Just third time through, like the story again, and like different details stand out of it again, but just like we're just telling the story again. And third time through, and maybe they've like there's something about third time through, maybe fourth time through, and at some point people are like, I'm sick of telling this story. And that's like incredibly transformative, because often people in victim stories are not yet sick of telling their own damn story about how miserable their lives are or how much they don't enjoy it. But by telling the story a few times on the spot, sometimes changes it or does something different. And it's not that I didn't listen the first and second and third time. It's that I'm like, we're just going to tell it again. And sometimes the third or fourth time through, a detail changes and something clicks for the person.
Yeah. Okay, so
It's a pretty cool
sounds like
technique.
psychotech, yeah.
It's a really cool psychotech. I don't use it very often because it's a bit of a dick move, but
yeah, I will say I see no way that I could possibly implement this in regular conversation.
yeah, look, this particular coach had the like obnoxious leadership thing of like being able to tell people what to do just a little bit too much. I didn't get along with him so well, but he had this cool tech that I was like, interesting. I can see how this one's valuable, but totally doesn't fit my vibe. Not something I can do regularly.
Yeah, because I do another thing, because like I feel like I couldn't get away with that socially of asking someone to say the same story again.
Right.
But what I can do is be like, oh, that's really interesting. And then I say, can I ask about, usually I ask permission. Like, can I ask about it? And then they're like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, so I'm curious about this. And then I like kind of go through all the details and, reflect back what I think is going on. And then we talk about it for a while. But that's interesting to me, actually. Like that's, I usually, but like, the thing is like some people do the stories and I was there for the story. And they're telling me the story like I wasn't there, and I hate that.
I
I'll do that, but I always start with remember when, and then I say the story. Like you're allowed to do that because then you're inviting them in.
mm, I so this is a conclusion that I have drawn from memories that repeat on me or experiences that repeat in my own experience. And basically, if something is repeating, and it happened the other day, I was doing some weird like guide. There's a guy who read angels or read guides, and he's like, a message is coming through, blah blah blah. They're telling me that I need to deal with my shame or something like that. This happens, and he was like, this happens regularly, and I was like, what? There's a message coming through. The message comes through regularly, and you're like dismissing it as the regular message. Are you insane? Like, there's a message coming through from your mystical forces, and you're not like I have it that if a message repeats, I didn't get the message yet.
Oh
Messages
yeah,
completely
you have
stop repeating once I get the message.
yeah, you have to do that. Otherwise, your experience just becomes very noisy.
What do you mean?
If you're getting the same message over and over again, like in your mind, like your mind is, and you dismiss it, then your mind gets filled with junk.
Right,
Like,
messages that keep coming back that you didn't
yeah,
properly.
like I get penis enlargement messages all the time, and I ignore them, but
right.
they're not coming from my mind; they're coming from my email.
Spam mail, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, but so I have that universe messages that are repeating themselves are not the same message. They're actually a different message, and they're coming through a second time or again repeating because I didn't get them the prior time. Yeah. And I have never having drawn this conclusion, never have I ever found a message that was just repeating because it felt like repeating, that a message that I already knew that I didn't need to know again did not repeat.
Yeah. Like I've had that where I didn't get it the first time.
Right. Totally.
Or like the seventh time.
There's a clip from Oprah that I love. I've watched nearly zero Oprah, but there's this one clip where she says that people, the message from the universe first comes as like a knock, like hey, like a little, and then it gets a little bit louder, and then it's like a thump, and like it's there to wake you up. And if you miss it, then something really bad happens, like a personal disaster happens. And it's because you didn't hear the flick, and you didn't hear the tap, and you didn't hear the thump, that the really big disaster happens. And it becomes a real skill to listen to the quieter and quieter messages.
Yeah.
And catch them when they're young.
Yeah. And that's why it's important also, I think, to not have those repeating messages, because it's hard to listen to things when there's a lot of stuff going on.
Oh, right. You can't tune into new stuff if you got all these old prior repeating messages that you haven't fully dealt with.
Yeah. Like if the room is silent and nobody's talking and somebody whispers, it's very easy to hear them.
Right. Well, the other thing I would say is that the beginner's mind, to say something is repeating is to not have the beginner's mind on it, right? It's I've heard this one before. Here we go again. Classic. Yeah. Here we go again. But that's not being fresh and new and seeing it for the first time in the way that real mastery sort of returns to beginner's mind, because it's very powerful at seeing the new connections in possibly the old experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would advise anyone who is getting repeating messages to be very careful of dismissing them, because they're not coming at it from the beginner's mind.
Okay.
And that's a little bit of a freebie in terms of psychotech, of be very suspicious of repeating messages, that they might be new messages.
Okay. So this is starting to sink in for me.
Ooh.
Starting to sink in for me. I kind of see what you're doing with this for. Okay, so when my wife says a story that I've already heard 10 times,
To
But
you?
she's not telling me the story.
Right.
She doesn't even tell me stories now because she tells it to her friends, and I'm like, or all the people in her life, and I'm there around. So she actually does me this favor and doesn't tell it to me. And then when I'm in conversation, it becomes like I got to hear it for the first time, so I don't have to listen to it a million times.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's actually really, really thoughtful of her. I really enjoy it. She's actually done it. She's like, oh, this thing I want to tell you, but you're gonna have to hear it 5 times. So I just won't tell you. And you'll probably pick it up.
That's
So
kind of cute.
yeah. So I really appreciate that. So that's like one message. And it's cool because then we get to hang out and get to discover it for the first time. It's just less. But then what does that mean? Like when like, you know, she said it to like 5 different people and I'm listening to the same story over and over again.
Well, if it's an emotional experience, I'd say that it didn't get validated in the prior instances. If it's a meaningful experience, she wants to keep spreading the meaning. Like, I don't know what the story is. So it really depends on the thing. Maybe she really enjoys the meaning behind the story. And so she wants to tell everyone she knows.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever told a story multiple times?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I've done the thing where I come back from holidays and I'm like, tell the first person everything about the holiday, spend 2 hours, tell the second person everything about it, spend 1 hour, tell the third person everything about it, spend half an hour, tell the fourth person it's like 15 minutes. Only the juicy bits get to like, until the like 6th person, like, yeah, I had a good holiday.
Yeah, you practice the pitch or whatever.
Right.
Or like,
and it gets honed until I'm like, yeah, I just had a good holiday.
yeah. Yeah. The thing is though, like for that, like there are some things like I don't like, yeah, like I don't like often I don't mind seeing the same story over and over again. Depends on what's going on, but often like, yeah, I'm practicing the pitch. But like when someone else is doing it and it doesn't feel like we're not really able to do like meta awareness on the story, on her sharing it, because she doesn't care about pitching.
Right. Well, there's something, my guess, here's a guess. Let me know if this lands for you. So you're hearing the story repeated and you got confused because you're like, I've heard this story. What do I do with the story?
I'm not confused. I'm just bored, right? Like I get why she's saying it because that person didn't hear it, right? And she wants to tell that person, right? Like it makes sense from her perspective. I just have to. It's like watching the. It's like being like an usher in the movie, and you're listening to the same movie over and over again.
Right. And so you're bored.
Yeah, like I get why the movie's playing it a lot, and I get why the people are watching it, but that doesn't mean that this is interesting to me anymore.
Right. So you're watching the movie again, and you're like, why is the movie playing again? Well, it's a little bit more complicated because she's choosing to put the movie on. She's choosing to tell the story. But there's an opportunity here maybe for you to inquire, like, because you're getting bored, right? You don't know why it's meaningful anymore to repeat it. You can inquire, you can ask, what is meaningful about it this time? And that may change over time. And that might be interesting to you because you heard it before. Or
there's no space there. Okay, maybe this is part of it. There's no space there for me to say it because she's saying the story of the person and they're like heavily involved in the story, right? Oh my God, this thing happened. Oh my God, I can't believe it happened. Yeah, for real, it did, like this thing. Oh wow. You know.
Right, but well, maybe I wonder.
There's no room for me.
Are you sure? Wait, that's some shit. That's some bullshit story you're telling about yourself. There's no room for me in the world.
Okay. I can't find room.
Oh, okay.
I don't see any room for me.
Right. Okay. And that's fair. And that's like, oh, there's a lot of emotions under when you say that. And something to be worked through. Like either you need to work on finding room or you need to acknowledge that you can't find room or you need to like be with that a little bit.
I have been with that for a lot. It's getting better because like we have the setup now where my computer's in the main room. So when they do that, like she does that sometimes with her friends. So I just go on my computer and like hang out. And if the conversation starts to get interesting again, then I'll go in. And also we're like shifting it where I don't necessarily hang out with
yeah. Look, these things are an interrelational dynamic. got to work on them. But there's definitely stuff going on. Boredom, for me, boredom is such a fascinating emotion because there's like so much in there. Like,
Yeah. It used to be more interesting to me, but now like I got a bunch of stuff to do, so
yeah. Oh, well then fair enough.
my time. Yeah, but there was a time where I was like really interested in boredom,
Mm,
and now it's
right. So there's definitely stuff going on there. I'm not going to put you on the spot to like
yeah.
dig through it right this instant, but be aware, like there's more going on.
Yeah, and I don't like their containers a lot too.
Oh, that's interesting. What's it like? So since we started on containering, what's it like to not like a container?
Yeah, so not specifically my wife, but just in general.
When like generally not liking containers.
Yeah, like someone sets up a container and then it feels uncomfortable, and then they're like trying to narrow in on something. Like containers are inherently limiting, right? Like
Right.
you've limited the amount of possibilities that can go.
Like this is the type of conversation we're going to have, or
Yeah,
like I want
And-
to talk
and that
about
doesn't-
oats.
yeah, and that doesn't mean that it's bad, right? Like,
They can
like
serve
if you-
a good purpose.
yeah, like our container is limiting, right? Like nobody else is allowed in unless we can grant the permission
Mhm.
into this space.
Mhm.
And like, so I'm not saying it's a negative thing. That's not bad. It's just it is a thing. So like when they're narrowing in on things that, like when they're narrowing in on a thing and it's like I don't want to be there. Like I start to feel like trapped.
Mhm.
And then I start to go, how did I get stuck here? And how do I get out?
Mm. Okay.
But sometimes they narrow in and I'm like, okay, this is interesting. Let me see where this goes.
Mm.
And I'm trying to figure it out. And I find good containers are like where they're narrowing in on something and it's either something that I like and I'm into, or it's something like unique, like foreign enough that I'm just trying to figure out what's going on, and close enough that I can relate to it in a way that I can try to figure out what's going on.
Mm.
And then those ones are really good. So even if it's a bad container, I'm having a great time because I'm just like, what's going on? I'm just trying to figure out what's going on.
Mm.
And I really enjoy doing that. But it's like a thing that I'm interested in finding out what's going on.
Hmm.
But then I figure out sometimes I figure out what's going on and I'm like, oh, this is bad.
I don't like this container actually.
Yeah.
I this story time. I had a time I entered a container I didn't like. There was a meetup group that was a local group that I liked, and then the local group moved to Facebook to run their meetups, and then meetup they closed their meetup account, and then meetup says, who wants to take over this group? And then someone took over the group, and the someone who took over the group was like orthogonal, and they were like a vitamin pyramid scheme sort of group.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't realize, no one had realized. So anyway, they were like, let's host a meetup. And I went, great. And I showed up at the meetup, and there was me and 6 other people, but it was like science and health related. And then we met these like vitamin pyramid scheme people. And we were sitting in this conversation going like, with these people who were like trying to shift from where we were, like trying to shift to the like vitamin mystical health thing. And at the time I was very much a scientific, and also the whole group, the context of the group was more scientific. And this conversation was just like, oh no, like, and then it was just, it got awkward and awkward and awkward, intense. And then like one of the people in the group was like, no, like absolutely not. And I was having a fascinating time because I was watching the people try and pitch their vitamins. I don't know what it was. It was some particular vitamin. Yeah. And I was trying to watch them like struggle through it. And while I was in this container, I was like, oh, I've already said no to this, but I could just hang out because this is interesting. And eventually someone else was like, no, like strong, hard no, like this is not what we're here for. Like, and then eventually we ended that meeting and the meetup group shut down. But it was like such an interesting conversation to be in, to watch this like I don't like this container. I don't like where we're at.
Yeah. Yeah, I do find it interesting sometimes, actually. But I don't like it when I'm the only one getting trapped. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like if there's other people getting stuck here, like if half the group is getting, like if there's like a power struggle or something,
Mm.
that's often very interesting. Um, because that's interesting. It's like inherently interesting conflict, I think.
Mm.
But I don't know. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes I'm like, I don't want to get dragged into this shit. Like it's gonna affect my life.
Right.
Or like you guys are gonna fight, and if I stick around, I'm gonna get like, you know what I mean? Like sometimes, like in the olden days, they would have like people who would come in and watch battles. So there'd be a battle, and they'd sit and picnic, and they'd watch the battle happen. So like I like that, but sometimes battles get messy, and then like nobody did that. I think World War I, World War II, like you didn't do that
Right.
because you get hit by artillery fire.
Right. This is what I have this thing coming to mind, which is the like structure and content. And the container feels a lot like the structure that holds the conversation or holds the experience. And then the content, and it's possible to like the content, but not like the structure.
Yeah.
It's also possible to not like the content, but like the structure. And it's possible to not like either.
Yeah. Or
Like,
to
like the example I gave was I didn't like the content or the structure. Like I was feeling a little trapped in the conversation. And also they were trying to sell me something that I didn't care about.
yeah.
But it's possible to be like half. Like this is where all the like particular subculture of people hang out. And so I want to be here to hang out with the subculture, but there's some toxic shit going on about between the organizers and like who likes who and who's friends with who. Like that's the like I like the content but not the structure. And then there's the like there's a way to like the structure but not the content. So we're circling, but we keep having boring stuff come up in the circle.
Yeah. So that one's interesting because the circling when boring stuff comes up, like the last like I guess 100 circles I've been part of, I've been the facilitator. So it's really intense actually for me when boring stuff comes up because I feel like I'm responsible. And
is it just you bored or is it more people bored?
No. It's when like it's boring and people aren't into it. It gets really intense because I feel really responsible for it. And I'm like, what the fuck do I do? And I have to like remain calm and you know what I mean? Like I have to like be the like embody the circling facilitation, not panic while still
figuring hold the container while figure out
how do I hold the container and shift the content at the same time. And you can't shifting the content is not you're not supposed to do that as a facilitator. So yeah.
Unless you
that actually is really crazy. That's super general.
Well, there is a way to do it, and it's to like be the content. Like I noticed I'm bored about this, and I want to.
Yeah, it's to notice what's interesting going on and pointing to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes. But it's weird because like they'll be talking about like a thing, or they'll be like focused on something that's boring, or focused on that it's boring. And you have to still acknowledge like what's going on and notice what's happening so that you're on the same page as everyone. Or I guess you don't. You could just non sequitur it. I don't know.
I had a conversation recently with I was doing a BOEM dialogue, which is a very particular type of container. And in the dialogue, we were talking about containers. And we were talking about trust and its relationship to the container. And it seemed like at the time, and I think this still remains true, the container is partly built out of how much I feel like I trust the container, and that's trust myself to hold the container. And that sort of comes out of me and bounces off everyone else in the room. And so my confidence in my leadership ability is supportive for other people to give them permission to be in the room and enjoy the room. Like they don't have to watch and keep guard as much because I'm doing it. And they don't have to like feel unsafe because I'm here keeping the safety, or I believe I'm here keeping the safety anyway. Like it's interesting just how much my trust influences everyone else's experience.
But yeah,
I think that was the noticing, and I need to double check that.
yeah. I found a lot of it was like calm and genuine and accepting what's going on, and that makes it like that's the most. Because like just like people nowadays, like to have a genuine conversation and like share what you feel, like that is so taboo. Like you can't share that. And so that is inherently just super interesting and intense. Even if it's like, I'm bored right now. Like, when was the last time you were at a party and someone was just sharing that they're bored?
Very long time ago. But
When was the last time you were at a party and someone was bored? Probably the last time you were at the party.
Well, I'm not sure that I would find out. Most of the time I
Now you could see it a lot of times.
sometimes, well, yeah, but I'm busy having a conversation, so I don't always look around so much. I can't guarantee that I always saw. It's also like how much bored, like bored for a moment, and then they get up and got a glass of water, or is it like bored for 5 minutes?
Yeah, like the bored for 5 minutes. Like you're bored for a moment. Like that's, you might as well take that time and reorient yourself.
I've had people that didn't get along with the party, and that's kind of hard to deal with. Like, oh, your culture isn't our culture, and so you're feeling left out or something, and you don't want to join our culture, and you don't want to. You're here to have a bad time with us. Okay.
Yeah,
I don't know how to deal with that so well, but
that's
other than let them have their bad time.
Right. So that situation is very interesting if there's meta awareness, and if people are able to like engage with that meta awareness. But if they're not, like if everyone just has to pretend like everything's fine, then it becomes like, then it's just painful. Like that's just so unpleasant when that happens. Like there's an elephant in the room and it's clearly causing problems, and everybody is just working very hard on not acknowledging the elephant because people are upset by the elephant. And then it's just like, dude, like, yeah, I get it. Like I get it. We're all upset by the elephant, but like, can we talk? Like, it will be more painful to talk about it, but long-term, it will be less painful. It's like a little initial. Otherwise, we're just dying a slow death.
That feels like one of the major learnings from the spiritual journey of meditation that I have been on is the like notice the things that are long-term better off dealing with sooner rather than short-term painful and therefore aversive. Like just deal with them sooner.
Yeah.
But it took me a long time to get there.
Yeah. And I hate it when like the people that like you're saying like this like cross culture people hate each other, but they'll unite to not like they'll get together and be like, no, we both agree we're not talking about this. We're just gonna be like subtly passive aggressive at each other. And like, how dare you? Those are not fun parties.
No.
But the outside is fun. Like the party itself isn't fun, but when you like go like one step outside, like you go outside for a cigarette break, even though I don't smoke, but I still do that sometimes. Like I tell people I'm taking a cigarette break because that's where I want to be in the party. And you need to know the password to get there.
Like sometimes you just want to be like taking a break from
like outside the party, but like still orbiting around. That's the cigarette. That's what the cigarette does.
This is a very complicated relationship with parties that containers.
Oh yeah. I'm always like breaking that stuff down, putting it together. That's how you have to, like throw a good party or like be the life of the party. Gotta know what's going on.
Very interesting stuff.
You do that too, or just...
So I host a lot. I'm a human that does a lot of leading the party. And then I sometimes find myself like really confused. Like, this is my party, but what am I meant to do here? I'm like, chat to
Yeah.
people superficially, make sure they're having a good time, listen to them, like, just get in an interesting conversation with them. Like, I don't know. I don't really know
Oh,
what to do with them.
yeah. You're
And so,
supposed to. You're the executive.
right. So sometimes I like catch people and match them together, but it's like, yeah, okay. I do have an answer to this. Probably the last time I held a party, I was confused as to how much I should be the host and how much I should be a participant. And then since the retreat, I sort of explored that on the retreat, and the answer is be more of a participant than I was being.
Nice.
And so that is what I intend to do in future parties. Lean in more. Even if like I can drop the ball on hosting and someone else will probably like tidy up the plates, like that'll be fine. But doing less of that would probably be healthier for me. That's my answer.
Nice.
But I haven't had another party to like do that.
Test it out yet. You gotta have more parties.
Yeah, totally. Looking forward to the next time I have a party. You're invited if you want to fly here. It's a bit far.
We'll do a Zoom party maybe, like coordinate times.
It's so hard. It's so hard to do mixed medium. Yeah.
Or we could just stick you up on like a screen somewhere.
Yeah. Like I'm a person also sitting on the couch, but I'm a screen. And so you can come to the party, sit next to the screen and chat to me.
Yeah. Stick you on a table somewhere, you know what I mean? And then like your people cycle through and our people cycle through.
Right.
It's like, it's cool. Oh yeah, it's cool. I actually did the streaming at the last party I went to. This girl there, she does streaming on Match Me, I think it's called. And so she's like, oh, I'm gonna go stream. I'm like, oh my god, can I stream with you? I'm a streamer, right? And
sure.
And she said, yeah. And then so we streamed and we were streaming at the party and doing stuff and like riffing off each other. It was actually super fun. I really enjoyed it. That's like people from the party were coming out. They're like, what are you doing? We're like, we're streaming. Come say hi.
Wild. It's been like when I was closer to a teenager, I had like house party style things I would attend or host or whatever. Like 50 to 100 people in the house party. Now that I'm a bit older, I do more like sitting down making philosophy parties. And I'm like, oh, it would be interesting to do one of those really big sized parties again.
Dude, I've never had a house party of 100 people. You've thrown parties that size?
Yeah, but a long time ago. Yeah, it was also like, it didn't trash the house, but there was a lot of people.
Yeah, I don't think we've done 100.
I would attend as well. Maybe. Like as a teenager, like there's 4 or 5 million people in my city. I would attend traveling all over Sydney, hang out with friends. Like
you just like go to random house parties?
No, like friends of friends.
Yeah, I love house parties. House parties are my favorite.
Maybe I gotta have more parties. That's the thing.
Let's do more parties.
Maybe.
Yeah, psychotech parties.
Psychotechnologies.